So, speaking of wish fulfillment, this one is perhaps my favorite subtopic money. The Cullens embody the phrase stinking filthy rich. Meyer's inclusion of this in the story serves several functions. First, they can do basically whatever they want, whenever they want. This way, she doesn't have to worry about how, say, Bella and Alice are going to get to Italy in time to prevent Edward from committing suicide via Sparkle. It's as lazy as hell, but it gets forgiven for the second reason she included it. It's completely, utterly, fantastically gratuitous. The family onto which Bella, you, me, and Twihards becomes grafted has so much money that they could never hope to spend it all. Few of the readers can even comprehend having that much money. I know I can't. So they simply take it for granted. Oh yes, of course my avatar can afford whatever the hell she wants. She, and by she I mean I, deserve it all. Or, I deserve it after all. I mean, she is so selfless and kind and wonderful. She, me, whatever, has it coming to us. It's our natural due. Why aren't you praising me? Sorry for that little outburst. I have no idea where that came from. Okay, that's a lie. But I'll get into that in another section. Anyway, allow me to illustrate just how disgustingly wealthy the Cullens are. And remember, they don't have any kind of obligation to help other people. They and the Twihards, don't forget, are better than all of humanity. This message revolts me only slightly less than that of women are complete only if they have a man and babies. Forget about giving comfort to the sick and dying, feeding the starving, or providing education to people in third world countries. Forget about giving hope to those who have none. It's all about me, me, me. This is the attitude that most people in my country have, and it makes me slightly sick. And yet, Meyer appeals to them, reaches out to them. These are the people that pad her pocketbook, her bank account. It says a lot about her as well. I can only hope that she is discreetly and unboastfully giving a good portion of the money she earns to a good cause. And no, tithing doesn't count because according to her religion, she's supposed to do that. No, I mean something like AIDS research or wildlife conservation. Something that makes a global impact. Lord knows she has enough money to make a difference if she only tries. Again, I apologize for the tangent. It's something that I'm quite passionate about. I do believe anyone who can live debt-free ought to help others with their excess. So now that I have the moral outrage portion of this installment out of the way, I can proceed. I will split this illustration into two categories. The Cullens' general attitude toward money, and listing the extravagant stuff they own. From New Moon, page 8. Edward had a lot of money. I didn't even want to think about how much. Money meant nothing next to Edward, or next to nothing to Edward or the rest of the Cullens. It was just something that accumulated when you had unlimited time on your hands, and a sister who had an uncanny ability to predict trends in the stock market. Edward didn't seem to understand why I objected to him spending money on me. Why it made me uncomfortable if he took me to an expensive restaurant in Seattle. Why he wasn't allowed to buy me a car that could reach speeds over 55 miles an hour. Or why I couldn't let him pay my college tuition. He was ridiculously enthusiastic about Plan B. College thing. Edward thought I was being unnecessarily difficult. But how could I give him things when I had nothing to reciprocate with? That's right. It's not I was uncomfortable with him spending so much money on me because I'd rather he gave to more worthy causes, like saving endangered predators. It's, I don't have anything to give him in return. And pages 224 and 225 of the New Moon PDF. The guard came around the car with an irritated expression and tapped on her window angrily. She rolled down the window halfway, and I watched him do a double take when he saw the face behind the dark glass. "I'm sorry, only tour buses are allowed in the city today, miss," he said, in English with a heavy accent. He was apologetic now, as if he wished he'd had better news for the strikingly beautiful woman. "It's a private tour," Alice said. Flashing an alluring smile, she reached her hand out of the window into the sunlight. I froze until I realized she was wearing an elbow-length tan glove. She took his hand, still raised from tapping her window, and pulled it into the car. She put something into his palm and folded his fingers around it. His face was dazed as he retrieved his hand and stared at the thick roll of money he now held. The outside bill was $1,000 bill. Is this a joke? He mumbled. Alice's smile was blinding, only if you think it's funny. That's right. A bribe over $1,000 is a joke to Alice. A joke. From the Breaking Dawn PDF, page 713. He seemed hesitant to say it aloud, though I was sure, having dealt with Jasper, he must have known the price wasn't really an object. This is the lawyer guy. And not even taking into consideration the bloated accounts that existed all over the world with the Cullens' various names on them. There was enough cash stashed all over the house to keep a small country afloat for a decade. It reminded me of the way there were always 100 fish hooks in the back of any drawer in Charlie's house. I doubted anyone would even notice the small stack I'd removed in preparation for today. Jay wrote the price down at the bottom of the legal pad. I nodded calmly. I had more than that with me. I unclasped my bag again and counted out the right amount. I had it all paper-clipped into $5,000 increments, so it took no time at all. Goodness gracious, that's too much. Page 741. Then I raided Alice and Jasper's petty cash, taking about twice the yearly income for the average American household. Let's aim low and say that's about $90,000 as petty cash. This woman makes me absolutely sick. And Bella does too. Okay, now I will examine their positions. As someone who only makes about $3,000 a year, this kind of excess makes me a little ill. Again, it wouldn't be so bad if they were doing something constructive with all this money, but it's just a plot device and gratuitous fan service. I'm breaking this down into different parts: mundane stuff, cars, and the over-the-top things. So, the mundane stuff. First, we have a description of the mansion in which the Cullens live. Starting on the Twilight PDF, page 166. And then, after a few miles, there was some thinning of the woods, and we were suddenly in a small meadow. Or was it actually a lawn? The gloom of the forest didn't relent, though, for there were 6 primordial cedars that shaded an entire acre with the vast sweep of their branches. Now, the trees held their protecting shadow right up to the walls of the house, and rose among them, making obsolete the deep porch that wrapped around the first story. I don't know what I had expected, but it definitely wasn't this. The house was timeless, graceful, and probably 100 years old. It was painted a soft, faded white, 3 stories tall, rectangular, and well-proportioned. The windows and doors were either part of the original structure or a perfect restoration. My truck was the only car in sight. I could hear the river close by, hidden in the obscurity of the forest. Snip. Inside was even more surprising, less predictable than the exterior. It was very bright, very open, and very large. This must have originally been several rooms, but the walls had been removed from most of the first floor to create one wide space. The back, south-facing wall had been entirely replaced with glass, and beyond the shade of the cedars, the lawn stretched bare to the wide river. A massive, curving staircase dominated the west side of the room. The walls, the high-beam ceiling, the wooden floors, and the thick carpets were all varying shades of white. I went on a tour of a house like that once. This is me, not Bella. I believe its price tag was about $1 million. Here's Edward's room in the Twilight PDF, page 178. The western wall was completely covered with shelf after shelf of CDs. His room was better stocked than a music store. In the corner was a sophisticated-looking sound system, the kind I was afraid to touch because I was sure I'd break something. There was no bed, only a wide and inviting black leather sofa. The floor was covered with a thick golden carpet, and the walls were hung with heavy fabric in a slightly darker shade. His room was better stocked than any music store. I've been in a few music stores in my day, and all I can say to that is holy crap, that's a lot of CDs. And here it is again.